Hey, what's up? I'm Scott, and today we're taking an in-depth look at the custom FX page of the Cubersync app for the Pilotcine Atom Cube Rx7. This page has quite a lot of detail to it, so I wanted to make this dedicated video to really go through in-depth, step-by-step, and show you all of the power that this page has to offer. If you want to see more about this app in general, I do have a general walkthrough of the app, and I'll put that link down in the video description below. So this is the custom FX page here, and you can see 1, 2, and 3 already do have a couple of steps programmed into those up at the top there. You can see 6, but if you scroll down, you've got 9 slots here. You can customize 9 special effects, and then down below that you have the custom scenario slot. These are 5 slots that you can save these effects to, and then you can write them to your light so that way you can access them from the menu in the light itself without having to use the app. Down below that, you do have dimming for these effects. So when you're creating these and creating the custom steps, you'll see that there's a dimming option in there as well. But keep in mind that that's going to be in relation between the steps of the custom effects. Out here is where you're going to control the overall intensity of the special effect when you're playing through it. Below that, you have edit, write, play, export, and load. Now, edit, of course, is to edit the custom effects, one that you've already started to work on or a brand new one. Write is to write it into one of those custom scenario slots and therefore to your light itself. Play is, of course, to play the special effect. Export is to export a text file of those steps that you've customized in there. Perhaps if you want to overwrite it, but you want to save that custom effect that you created for possible future use. And then load is where you can go ahead and load in those text files. Pilotcine has created some of those files for you to load into the app. So you can see here they have breathing, fire, firework, and flashing. If I click the dots next to that, I can send a copy to my own Google Drive, for example. So now in the app, if you click load, you'll see I'm already loaded to my Google Drive, but you can go back to browse if you want to find it in a different location. Go over to Google Drive, and here we've got Firework 1. Load that. You can see it saved into what I had selected as number 6 up here. I'll write that to step 1. I'm going to now play it, and you can see the effect a little bit on the background there. And now this is saved into slot 1 on my light as well, so I could access this without having to use the app. Of course, I could go in and actually edit it. You can see all the steps that they've programmed in here. If I wanted to remove any of these, for example, I didn't want one of the colors, I could just select it and then click the minus to delete that. So you can go in and tweak the things that they've already set up for you. So let's just dim this down a bit so that way it's not distracting while we walk through the steps of creating a new custom effect. Let's choose slot 4 in here and click edit, and you'll see we have a fresh slate to work from. There are some buttons down at the bottom, but we're actually going to go through those after we get a few steps programmed in here. And before that, we can also tap the undefined title at the top and go in and rename this. So we'll just name this test for today. Now click the plus to add a new step, and you can see there's lots built into this page as well. Now right up at the top, we have 2, I guess you could call it sections. Effect mode, which will just turn that effect on, whether it's an RGB color or a CCT, a white light value. And the bottom is fade mode. That will fade between 2 values, whether it's the brightness of whatever you program in there, the saturation of whatever you program in there, the actual color, an HSI color can fade from one to another, or you can fade some aspect of CCT light as well. So in the straight effect mode for RGB, you can see down here we can select the duration of that light, and you can go anywhere from, if we pull back, 5.10 seconds, and you can go in quite small increments here down at the beginning as well. Under that, you can set the dimming for this color, and again, this is going to be within the steps of the effect. We have the master dimming back out in that main page. So that's where you would dim the overall special effect. But for example, if you want a dimmer light followed by a brighter light followed by a dimmer light within the steps of your special effect, this is where you would program in that intensity within your effect. And then down the bottom for your RGB mode, we have the R, G, and B values. Again, you can tap these little blue circles to actually type in the numbers if you have something specific in mind. You also have daylight and tungsten down the bottom, and as you dial these in, you can see a preview of the color shown right above that in that little cube. So in this current setting, for the first step of our special effect, we would be seeing a purple color displayed at 100% brightness in relation to the other steps for 0.1 seconds. And that would just come on. It would not fade or anything like that. It's just a straight light that comes on. Under effect mode, we also have hue, and this is going to be essentially the same, just a different way of choosing the color that you are working with. So you have the color circle here. You can slide it around for your color and your saturation. Or again, you can tap the blue circle to dial that in, type that in exactly as you want it if you have something specific in mind. Then we have CCT, and once again, it works pretty much in the same way. So let's go back to our RGB and let's just program that in for 1 second here. We click save at the top, and now let's add another step. Let's do a couple of RGB effects for all of them 0.1 seconds. We'll just cycle between some different colors here just to show you what it looks like when we add, let's say, 3 steps. Okay, so now we have a purple, a green, and a blue, all for 0.1 seconds, all at 100% intensity. So the intensity of the lights will be the same between each step. If we select one of those steps and then click play, you can see that color flash. If we back out of this, now is where we can, let's go into a custom scenario slot 2. Let's write that to the light so we have that in the light itself. And then let's click play, and you can see those 3 colors right there, 0.1 seconds each. And then you can dim the actual effect here, so you can pull it back to 20%, 55%, or even 0% if you wanted to. Let's jump back into that with the edit button. And now I just want to show you, for example, if we select step 2, and then we click the little copy button at the bottom, it will duplicate that, but it will duplicate it immediately after that step. So you can see here, it didn't duplicate it to the end of this series. It duplicated step 2 to once more be right again after step 2. So now we have back to back of step 2. So that's how the copy and paste function works. It's not going to copy it and then paste it at the end of the timeline or another place in the timeline. I would love if you did have separate copy and paste buttons, so you could copy one and then say move down here and then paste it in that location. Or if you could at least grab these and then slide them around, so that way you could grab step 3 and pull it down after step 4, for example. I think that those two things, being able to copy and paste or slide things around so you can rearrange these steps in different orders, would be something I hope that they add or update to this in the future. So now we can delete that extra step that we accidentally duplicated by clicking the minus button. And then if we wanted to edit these, we can always jump into the pencil button and go back in and say I wanted that last effect to be a little bit longer. Let's put it for 0.32 seconds. Click OK, save. And now as we go back out, let's again just write that to the light so that way it's updated in the light itself. And then click play. Let's boost this up again so we can see it. Now you can see that last color is a bit longer. So let's just jump back in to see how some of those other fade effects work. And let's just delete these 3 steps here so that way we can start fresh, and we'll add a new step. Now the first fade mode is fade brightness. So you can see here we've got the start and the end, and you can select the time in between. So if we start at, let's say, 0%, for example, we're at 100% saturation. This is in HSI mode. And then we can choose a color. Let's choose a nice blue here, for example. We can then go into the end, and we'll end it at, let's say, 100%. So just a straight 0 to 100 fade here. And let's make that last, let's say, 1 second so we can see it a little bit clearly. And I should mention here that only the percent, the intensity, is getting faded in this particular mode, not the actual color. So you can't select a different color for the start and end points, only the intensity and the duration of that fade. Again, we do have other fade modes, which we'll take a look at in a second. And of course, you could do this in CCT color as well. So let's save that. We'll go back and write it to update to the light and just play that. And there you can see nice blue light that we set, fading from 0 to 100% over a course of 1 second. If you want to fade in, hold it for a second and then fade out again. Let's add 2 more steps. First, let's just remember we're at hue 209, and let's add a new step here. We're going to go for hue, and we'll add 209, and that's at 100% intensity. And we'll keep this for a second. We'll go 1 second, 1 second, 1 second with these 3 steps. And now we're going to add one more fade of brightness, and this time we're going to start at 100% and end at 0, and we're going to again fade it out over a course of 1 second. Let's again select 209. We can type that in even though it's not highlighted in blue like it usually is. And then we'll save that. Let's go back out, write that again to update it to our light. And now let's boost up our intensity so we can see it. There we go, 1 second on, fade out, fade in, 1 second on, fade out, fade in, 1 second on, and it repeats over and over. So that's a really simple 3-step way to kind of fade in and out a light, this kind of pulsing effect. So let's remove these steps so we can see the next effect more clearly. So let's start again and we'll take a look at fade saturation. Now it's going to work in essentially the same way, but this time instead of fading intensity, we're going to be fading the saturation. So let's go with 100% intensity, and let's just keep it on red at 0 degrees for our color. We'll fade this again over a second because that's easy to see, and we'll start out at 0% intensity. We'll select our ending point and scroll that up to 100% intensity. Click save, back out, write it to our light, and pull this up so we can see it happening. And you can see there it starts out kind of white-ish and then fades into 100% saturation there. That's all there is to that. Of course, you could build multi-step effects using that and combining them with the other ways that you can program things in here. Just to show you though, let's choose Fade HSI, and now we're going to be fading between one color and another. Let's fade between a nice blue. Let's pick our 209 again, for example. In this mode, you can select the intensity, the dimming, but you cannot select the saturation. So just keep that in mind. We'll switch this up to 1 second again, and then we will end, let's say somewhere right across in the yellow-orange zone. Let's say 35 for now. Let's save that, back out, write it to our light just to be sure, and boost up our intensity there. And now you can see that nice blue to yellow fade. Just to show you how you can play around with this, I'm going to add 3 more steps. I'm going to hold it at that yellow color at the end for 1 second, then I'll fade from yellow back to blue, and then I'll hold that blue for 1 more second. So similar to that first 3 steps thing we did, but in this case we're going to be fading between colors, and we're just going to keep it going in that circle with 4 steps programmed into here. So I'm going to hold on 35 for 1 second. And then we're going to fade from 35 to 209. And then we're just going to hold at 209 for 1 more second at the end there. Let's go back. Let's write it to our light. Now we can see it holds at blue. We're fading over to yellow, holds at yellow, fades back to blue. And each of these is 1 second throughout that cycle. So that's a really nice quick fade between colors in 4 steps. Let's delete these once more to take one final look at the last mode we have here, which is Fade CCT. So this is similar to Fade HSI, but we're going to be fading between different CCT values. And again, if you wanted to fade between the intensity of a CCT value, you can go over to that Fade Brightness step we had before and just choose CCT instead. Fade CCT is a dedicated mode to fade between 2 actual CCT values. So we'll start right at 2500K. We'll just leave that as it is. We'll choose 1 second again, our favorite value today. And then we'll end, let's see, at the other end of the range. Why not? Let's say 8500. And this is all at 100% intensity. And we'll just leave that simple 1 step just to show you how it works, because you get the idea by now. So you can see it's just a straightforward 1 second fade from 2500K to 8500K. But anyway, you can use those 7 different ways of dialing in steps within your special effects. And again, just as a reminder, you can set up 9 in here in the app, but you can write 5 to the light so that way you can access those without having to actually use the mobile app. So hopefully that gave you a good idea of how to do this. Again, if you want to see more about the app in general, I will put the link for that down in the video description. Otherwise, if you have any remaining questions, please do let me know down below and I will do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, if you like this video or found it helpful, please do consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more in the future, and as always, thank you for watching.